allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I know we're sitting out of order here, but I'm still going to call us alphabetically. Mr. Bartlett?
Here.
Mrs. Graves?
Here.
Dr. Lewis?
Here.
Mrs. Rankin?
Here.
Mr. Stelzer?
Here.
Mr. York?
Here.
All right. First item tonight is Vicki Hill. She's completed her 180-day probationary period and is recommended that she be moved to full-time employee status. Say a few words, Chief. Vicki?
Aye. Yes, Mr. Mayor, as you stated, it is my recommendation that Vicki be taken from her probationary period and made a regular employee. Vicki's done a stellar job for us. She came in, it was pretty challenging because we went from a different, went into the Baldwin Mayor's Court system, which we had never used before. So it was a big job, and Vicki's done a phenomenal job transitioning into that for us and getting things up and running. And I just can't say enough about how good a job she's doing. So,
Anybody got any questions for her? I think she's doing phenomenal.
Yeah, I would have to say too, I work with
Yeah,
her
you
quite a
work
bit,
with
and
her.
she's fantastic. I mean, very, very organized and responsive and just terrific. So I really would give her a big thumbs up myself.
Okay. Can I have a motion then in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Graves.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Congrats. All right, next up, we're going to have a presentation tonight. Joe Snyder and Larry Getz are going to present us with some information about our sister cities, Venice being the main one.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council persons, for letting us have a few moments to speak to you about the sister city relationship of Venice, Florida, and Marymount, Ohio. I handed out a couple of items to you. Each of you should have a copy of an Ohio magazine that was published in the late 1990s, and I think you'd all agree that it stands to today that Marymount is a very, very special place to live, and let's not ever forget it. The other handout was Mayor Brown and I discussed earlier that we are going to give you some homework tonight. This is mandatory must-watch video of these YouTube movies that Larry Getz had a lot to do with putting these together. And please take time to watch those and pass them on to your friends and children. Once again, my name is Joe Schneider, and this is retired Marymount school teacher Larry Getz, sitting to my right. Larry and I are both residents of Venice, Florida. Larry and I, myself, and we still, this is where we spend our summers now, and our winters are spent in Venice, Florida. I hope you feel sorry for us. For those that don't know, Marymount and Venice are connected in a very special way. They are both John Nolan planned communities. In Venice, Florida, where Larry and I live, the emphasis on that is, I'm not criticizing Marymount, but we take that very seriously down there. On top of every street sign in the city of Venice, it says John Nolan's Historical District. For those of you who don't know, Mary Emery hired a town planner named John Nolan in 1923 and built Marymount. And just a few years later, 1926, he took on the task of building Venice, Florida. So if you were to look at an aerial map of Venice, Florida, and Marymount, with the town square and the quirky little streets and the circular drives everywhere, we look a lot alike. In 2016, the Venice City Council passed a resolution, which you have a copy of in front of you, creating an organization of municipalities created by the renowned city planner John Nolan. In 2017, your village council, which you have a copy of in front of you, passed a resolution 2016-31 recognizing and creating this association of Nolan communities. Larry and I are here tonight to share with you the exciting news about a project that we have been selected to present to the Venice Area Historical Society lecture series titled The John Nolan Communities of Marymount and Venice, Florida. Together, we will bring the story of Marymount to the residents of Florida on April 19th, 2022 in that lecture series. We invite the mayor and any city councils to attend. Larry and I have connected with a very valuable resource in Florida, and that is the Venice local newspaper called the Gondolier. And the writers will make April 2022 Marymount month in the Venice area. There will be a lot of publications. We will be sure to share them with you when they're published. You might be able to read them online too. Is that correct, Larry? Read them online. It's called the Gondolier. In April, March and April, there will be a lot of Marymount news in that publication. Our mission is not only to share the story of Marymount with the residents of Florida, but to entice, and this is our goal, to entice the more than 25 other John Nolan communities across America to be part of this association. So what we're trying to do is create the buzz to get, and some of these other cities are mentioned in those resolutions, Madison, Wisconsin, Kingsport, Tennessee, Newport, Rhode Island. There's other John Nolan communities out there, and we want them to join our association. Our request to the board or to the council tonight is to consider this. In Section 4, Item 3A in the Marymount resolution, appropriate funds to receive public officials or delegates when visiting Venice on official business. So we ask you to consider funding an official visit by your mayor to attend this lecture series in Venice, April 22nd, 2022, April 19th. Thank you for your consideration and time. Larry, would you like to say a few words?
Just want to back up what Joe said about Venice. It's a very, very interesting place. And what was so striking about Venice was that the first time I ever went through it, I was driving through it with a realtor. And I had just retired a few years before, and we were looking for property down there. We went all the way up and down the coast. And I was driving through there, and as we drove around, I said to Sherry, I said, you know, this really reminds me of Mariemont. I don't know what it is about this place, but it really reminds me of Mariemont. And, you know, beyond that, the realtor didn't have any clue about any connection with Mariemont, Ohio. I didn't know a thing about it. And so we actually ended up buying a house there. But before we finished everything and had the house, it was actually on Super Bowl Sunday that year, and we saw there was an ad in the paper, and they were going to have a special celebration in Venice, and we were down in, we weren't in Venice at the time, but it was the Herald Tribune, the paper down there, and we were at Boca Grande. That's where we were staying, and we saw this ad that said, you know, John Nolan community. So from that point on, I knew that there was more to Venice than just a name. So anyway, it's a beautiful place. We would love to see people come down, and we want people to appreciate what they have there and try to instill some of the spirit that I remember as a teacher here in Mariemont, some of the spirit about a community in Venice. That is the goal of this talk. So that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Well, let me ask, how many of the 20-odd or so other communities are in this association? Do you know?
Right now, it's just Venice and Marymount.
So we got to start
So
starting.
that's why
Okay, well, we got to start someplace.
that, the buzz that we're trying to create, and we're going, I know Larry has reached out to the Tennessee connection.
The Kingsport, Tennessee, it's close, and it's got some interesting connections too. So that, and I know somebody down there, a brother of a stepfather. So
Okay.
there is a chance, at least get some kind of recognition.
Yeah.
Is what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think the point of it is, Mayor Brown, that not a lot has been done since these resolutions have been passed. There's nobody taking it to that next level.
Sure.
And so Larry and I's mission is to do that. And we've got the publication behind us of the Gondolier, which is very important, out of Venice. It's a well-respected newspaper down there. And so once we get that ammunition, we want to go to these other communities and try to get them on board.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you want to follow your question? 'Cause I have a couple
Well, just sort of quickly, I would assume then that probably aren't the bulk of these other 20-odd communities, aren't they just like we are? We're on the cusp of our centennial. Would they be as well? I mean, were most of these communities designed around that 1920, 3, 4, 5 area?
Yes, yeah, his career was from, I guess, the early 1900s up through when the Depression started. So he had about a 25-year career. And so all these communities that he was involved with are all in there. Most of them were just plans. There was 25 that had just a small part of the plan implemented. Mm-hmm. But there were some that were pretty big plans. There's some, I think it's Roanoke, Virginia, is one of the places, and somewhere in Connecticut too. So Bridgeport, is that?
New London, Connecticut, looks like.
I want to add to this that, which is what I forgot, when I was with the Marymount Preservation Foundation on their board, one of my committees was the Sister City platform, and we do officially have another sister city which is recognized internationally, which is Hampstead Gardens, which is a suburb of London, which the official documents have been filed with MPF and their preservation foundation. So we do have an international sister city, also done by John Nolan and his gang.
Yeah.
So, two questions. First of all, do you know if Bridgeport, Rhode Island, or Newport, Rhode Island, excuse me, Newport, predated Marymount? Because I'm wondering if that's how, she had a house in there, and is that how she got John Nolan?
If I had to guess, I would say they did, because by the 20s, his career was well established, and he didn't work a whole lot past that. He actually died in the 30s, so I would say yes, but I don't know that to be completely true. But his two big projects during the 30s was Venice and Mariemont.
And then my other question is, would either of you gentlemen consider writing an article for the town crier about what your project and your mission are, so we can share it with the residents of Marymount and, get these great resources out there? I mean, we'll put them on our website for sure, but, there are people who don't go to the website that still just read their paper, and it would be really neat. I think it'd be a really neat thing. I don't know if it's further down the road, closer to your series date.
Time that we're going to do the lecture series.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
So, anyway, do you have their contact information?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, I'll reach out to you too, so you've got mine. And, because
Susie.
it's Susie.
hope to make the trip.
Can't we have council meetings there in February?
Why not?
Think about funding your mayor to come down to Florida. I can house them.
Mayor
We just
and
need some money for airfare.
Mayor and council. It's an all-inclusive group.
Make a road trip.
Are all these listed on the MPF
And
website?
Tony, and
Is that where
Tony,
this came from?
and Ed.
Wasn't there one, we did one about Venice. Wasn't there a presentation about Venice?
Yes, we have.
Is that on there?
No, that's not on this.
But is it on the?
Oh,
Yeah, these were all done by my video class.
and
But it
And
is.
Joe, when we did our
Is it a
Millard
lot
Rogers
larger or
lecture
not?
series about the four founders of Marymount, Mary Emery, John Nolan, what's his name, Living Good, and then our first mayor, I wrote a series of articles for the town crier. I don't know if you need some source information. I mean, it's not anything you can't get in our books, but it is consolidated. So if you're interested in looking at it, I had a lot of fun doing those.
Thank you, Marcy. I'll reach out to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good to
you,
see.
everyone.
Yeah,
So
thank
good
you.
to see
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thanks.
Good to see you,
Very
Joe.
nice. Very, very
Don't be a
nice.
stranger.
And Larry, you taught my son, Ryden Lewis. Do you remember Ryden?
Yeah, just say
Ryden?
yes.
Yeah, he's 25.
All my kids, all my former students are in their 30s, 40s.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, any question regarding the minutes to the regular council meeting of August the 23rd, and then, of course, the special council meeting of council August the 31st? Any questions regarding those minutes? No?
No?
All right, motion and a second to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Graves?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, we'll accept those minutes. All right, in communications, Chief, starting with Chief Hines' report, kind of lengthy. Chief, you want to make any comments? You want to make any comments about these certifications and things that you've received?
Yes, attached to my report this month is something that I'm pretty proud of. We have full compliance with the Ohio Collaborative. Every agency in Ohio has been, it's not a mandatory thing, but it's a recommendation. There's a lot of work involved, and a lot of departments have not received full compliance, and so I'm really proud of our department and the fact that we have received full compliance and community engagement, also in bias-free policing, investigations of employee misconduct, and use of force and recruitment and hiring. To get to that point, like I said, there was a lot of work, and I charged both Lieutenant Ossendorp and Sergeant Pitsley in doing a lot of the work that had to be done. There's a lot of policy and procedure, a lot of showing the things that we do in the community in those areas, reviewing our use of force reports, so on and so forth, showing how we go through our hiring process and what we do and how thorough we are about that. So it is something that I'm very proud of, and like I said, it's a credit to the employees in the police department and a credit to Lieutenant Ossendorp and Sergeant Pitsley and the work that they did for us to achieve this. So it's a big deal, and like I said, I wanted to bring it to your attention, and very proud of our people. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Good work, Chief. Good work.
Congratulations.
Nice job.
Well done.
All right, the fire report, I don't believe, well, we have any comments, any remarks about the fire report?
Well,
It's kinda
can I ask, I
straightforward.
want to ask Chief a question.
Sure.
First.
Sorry.
So in August, there were 6 accidents on Worcester Pike. That's 32 for the year. Last year, there were 12. Is this just increased COVID traffic, or is there any?
I think that has something to do with it, Mr. York. The numbers during COVID were down because I think obviously there was a lot more people staying home. Traffic was a lot less than it has been once things open back up. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Is that more on par with what you would have seen in 2019, where we are now?
Probably, I'd have to go back and look at that, but that's probably pretty close. Yeah. But 2020 was pretty much straight, I mean, throughout the state. The numbers in those areas were down from, years past. And like I said, I think it was because people were staying home and there was less people out on the roads.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else?
Well, since Randy set the precedent on this, I'm seeing on Miami Road a significantly higher number. And would that mostly be down the hill there where we have our issues, do you think?
Yeah, if it's, on Miami Road, it would be obviously, are you looking at the accidents?
Right.
Is that what you're looking at?
Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, citations. That's what that's what I meant.
Citations.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry,
well, the
sorry,
citations are up due to the fact that we, again, there's more cars on Miami, just like on Worcester, than last year. But we've really stepped up our enforcement there due to the concerns that we've had with the residents on Miami. So we've stepped our enforcements up. I work with Ms. Graves on that, and we've done a lot of enforcement, done a lot of traffic counting, and took some other measures to try and help that situation there.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that we moved, and Avi, I know you're probably responsible for that. We put a post in, a special post, and we moved it to the tail end of the median there so that people coming down the hill can see it more readily. Hopefully that's having some effect.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost.
We just did that, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that way the speed sign is more visible coming down the hill than waiting till you get to the bottom.
Get down and under the trees.
So I think the measures that we've taken, I think is probably helping the situation. But we'll stay on it. We always have. Miami's always been, it's a hill, and until we flatten it out, which we know we can't do that, it's always going to be a problem. So it's an area that we do pay a lot of attention to.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anybody else? We good?
Okay, thank you.
All right, the fire report. Mr. Hendricks?
How's everyone this evening?
Good.
I'm Captain Henderson. I'm filling in for Assistant Chief Dan Copeland. He is at another venue this evening. So we'll just kind of talk about our monthly fire report here. We'll hit some of the highlights. Year to date, 2021 total fire dispatches was 197. That's up from 103 last year. Kind of goes in line with Chief Hines with the COVID pandemic that we've been dealing with. The numbers were down a little bit. Total EMS dispatches for 2021 so far is 257. Last year was 224. MA, which means mutual aid, you'll see given and received. That's how many times we were given mutual aid from different companies outside of Marymount. And then flip that. That's how many times we gave our services from Marymount to someone else and then received as vice versa. Mainly those are, we'll break it down to a little bit. We call it an AMAR, which is automatic mutual aid. So it's an automatic dispatch that we have with our surrounding fire departments. So even though we categorize it as mutual aid, they're getting dispatched the exact same time we are. Some of the monthly highlights we had for August, even though the kids are currently in school, we had our final, I think it was about 5 final walkthroughs we had of Marymount High School. As you know, that is a brand new building. It is a large building. Those kids are super, super safe in that building. In regards to radio communications, both for police and fire, communications inside the building that the teachers can have with kids, and reference lockdowns and things like that. So that thing is Fort Knox sitting up on top of that hill. And like I said, we've had about 5 final walkthroughs because we wanted to get it right for the kids and our community as well. We did a safety day for Marymount Elementary School. That is a summer program that they do, and we've done that for, I think the past 10 years. We'll do like a little safety brief The service department, as we do almost every day, hand in hand. Back in August, we did some tree removal and help with them getting roadways cleared. When we have storms come through, as you all know, trees come down pretty quickly, and we lend them a hand and we help out each other when we can. If you did not know, we had a major accident on Worcester Pike. I was involved with that. Was a single vehicle NVA into a tree. Sounded like a bomb went off in the middle of the village. That guy was fine. But with the police and fire department, we worked hand in hand and got him taken care of, and then passed him over to the police department in that aspect, as you can kind of read between the lines on that. But all in all, not a busy month, which what we like, but we keep everybody safe, and that's what our job is. So.
Let me ask you,
Yes.
When's the last time you did an inspection down at the Kellogg plant?
The Kellogg plant, it gets done once a year.
Annual thing?
That is an annual thing, correct.
Okay, and do you know when that was done?
We can find that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm asking, there's a lot of work going on down there, a lot of personnel change and.
It is constant. They've had, I think, probably from 2019 to today, they've probably had 3 new plant managers, just because they've had overturn in their facility as well. But we'll do it once a year with the state, and we can get those exact dates for you if you need that.
No, I'm just kind of, yeah. Dan had mentioned something to me about it, and I was just trying to follow up. Okay.
Absolutely.
Anybody got any questions?
Fantastic. Thank
Thanks,
you. Have a
sir.
good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the Service Department monthly report. Any questions regarding this? John, do you have any comments you'd wish to make?
I'm supposed to meet with Shamrock tomorrow, reference to do a dye test. So we're hoping to get that done tomorrow. We're still pumping in some of the chemicals that are left over. So after the next week, everything should be taken care of, and we can start doing our other testing if they can't find much with the dye. So I'm gonna work with Rob, let him know what I found out already from Shamrock, and then see what they can do with the dye test, if he can check those areas first and then go check the whole thing after that. So hopefully we'll be able to find something else.
Primarily, the testing, though, is just in the lap pool, correct, in the baby pool?
Correct. The baby pool, I think we know where that's at, in the skimmer there itself.
Okay.
So we'll talk to him about repairing that and see what happens.
So-
And then
okay.
a couple of welds on the regular pool that are squirting water out and stuff.
So at this particular time, we're still adding water to the pool, is that correct? Or are we monitoring the level of the pool?
We're just monitoring the level
Well,
right
is it
now.
losing water? I mean, what's,
Yeah, so we just have it, we've got it turned up, we've just tweaked it. We don't have to have it like how they had it earlier. Because we just need to have it run through the chemicals. Then we'll just fill up the balance of it once Rob gets done with his testing, and then we'll go ahead and monitor it like we did in the spring. to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
if
see
we
how
put it
much
at the
it
regular
loses.
level
Uh-huh.
and see how fast it goes from there.
Yeah.
So, but once we get Rob done with his testing and try to figure out something there, then we can go from there on our other stuff.
okay,
So each year we keep finding another section, so hopefully we'll be able to
yeah.
get it
Well,
all this year. So
we've got to get on top of that,
Yeah.
the leak thing down
So-
there. Yeah,
find out what happens. Okay.
all right. Anybody else got any questions? All right, Tax Administrator Dara, she not here tonight. Any questions? I guess you'll have to contact her directly. The interim building report. Mr. Vanstone has put together what I consider to be a fairly comprehensive report of the activities over that 1 month, 30 to 31 day time period there. This is a busy time of year. There's a lot going on in that office. He sort of formatted this, what you see before you here is sort of formatted. I think it's a little bit easier to understand. It kind of breaks down different permits, so on and so forth. Any questions?
This is great. This is very helpful.
That's it's fairly comprehensive. And I know Bob, he's over there every day before I am, and he is working hard on this. So, did you want to mention?
Last sentence in the report's the most important.
And I didn't know if we want to make a comment about that or not, but we did have a gentleman spend Friday with Bob about the role, and we have a potential candidate
Yeah.
for the job, which I think Bob will buy us all champagne when that happens.
Well, there's going
So-
to be, again, there's going to be a little interim period here. Mr. Holloway is going to have to spend some time, getting up to speed and sort of learning the ins and outs of it.
Sure, as anyone would.
Yeah, as anyone would. But he seems to be enthusiastic about doing it and energetic, so I think it'll be,
Bless you.
yeah, I think we
Make
can,
sure it's done, the
yeah.
transition's done.
I think we can transition
Every-
through.
Every trust in you that will be the case. So,
I just had a question about your questions, your category of questions. Are those primarily from residents, or are they just from all over?
All over, we get realtors calling,
Okay,
we get contractors calling, they're thinking about work for a residence. It's just, when the phone rings, you answer it, and you try and answer their questions.
all right,
Some of it's hand-holding.
okay.
like we said before, one phone call can change the whole day. Change your game plan.
All right, Assistant Fiscal Officer Wendler, you have her report. If you have questions, I guess you can email, you can call, or ask Tony.
Yeah, compared that real quick to last year.
Okay.
And just a little bit of a timing issue when we collected our real estate tax money. So our collections this month for this year were just $1,063,000. Last year they were only $246,000, but that's $700,000 of real estate money, including the rollback that came in a month later last year. And the expenses were pretty close this year, $434,000, last year $425,000. So not a whole lot of variance in the expenses.
Okay,
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.
any other questions? You guys good? All right. We have a thank you from Chief Hines regarding flowers for his father.
Hey, Bill, I'm sorry,
Sure.
go back.
Oh, sorry.
So I know Eli's working on moving towards a new report,
Yes.
because this is an automated, so, this gets all rekeyed in all over again. She gets it out of CM, or used to get out of CMI, rekey it all in again. The one on the opposite side page is the automated report. And so I've encouraged her to say, I don't think there's a lot of value add to have anybody rekeying this data. Let's take what comes out of the system automatically and save the time and
Sure.
effort for that. So she's included that. We'll be transitioning to this as being the official ongoing cash balance report. And then separately, she's going to still do the other stuff that's at the bottom.
Right.
But that requires, that's easier enough to do that. But this is going to be the new report going forward.
Excellent.
And the only problem with it is that the print is so small.
It is small.
We are kind of working on, we were experimenting the other day in the office to try and be able to print something that, a human being could actually read. But it is a better format, I believe. Yeah, it makes it better that way.
Yeah, that's excellent.
All right, as I just said, thank you from Chief Hines. And we have half a dozen here, communications. Lauren, Courtney, Eric Marsland, Maggie, and Dennis Walter giving their opinions about a village administrator. You can read those at your leisure. All right, permission to address council. Do we have someone who would like to speak? All right, Pat.
That's a lot of bills.
Pat, just say your name, please, and your address.
Patricia Van Stone, 4050 Lytle Woods Place, Marymount, 45227. All right?
Well, please proceed.
All right. To Mayor William Brown and members of the Marymount Village Council, thank you for the privilege of allowing me, a concerned resident of the Marymount Village, to speak to you. The first observation I would like to make is one that concerns justice and ethical fairness. I quote now from the Merriam-Webster Thesaurus, which states that justice is, quote, "the act or practice of giving to others what is their due," end quote. I venture that most of you here act out of good intentions. The word justice, therefore, is highly applicable. The words conscience and integrity can be added to the proposal, which I am going to discuss here. The point of my presentation is to show the woefully low amount of our mayor's salary. Recently, I learned from public records that the salary of our dedicated mayor is only $8,000 per year. Speaking for myself, I was outraged and shocked to learn that. Where is the justice of a person of such high caliber who was so grossly underpaid? Our mayor deserves, out of decent fairness, a salary increase which matches the values of our community. Fact. Let's do some math. If we break down $8,000 divided by 52 weeks at 40 hours a week, the amount of hourly pay comes to about $3.80 an hour. That's obviously far less than the minimum wage. I find this so-called salary totally unconscionable, in part because Mayor Brown is virtually an ambassador of goodwill in helping to handle in a positive manner the many issues which come up. He works to help others solve a vast array of community projects and problems, perhaps unknown to many of our residents here. He has, in fact, always been vibrant and well-mannered. I would like to contrast his $8,000 salary with the proposal to spend up to $160,000 for a village administrator. It is not clear to me that the village needs that additional expense at a time when some council members focus on the issue that the village is already in the red by spending more than its revenue. One argument for an administrator is to get additional grant funding. But it's difficult when we live in a village with such architectural charm, required green space, and very little land available for economic development. We do not get the taxes or grants that Fairfax gets. But would you want to live near a Walmart? No, not I. Thank you for your time and consideration. Pat Vanstone.
Thank you, Pat. I think I'm going to do something here that has never been done before. I'm going to allow her to read that again. No, thank you for the sentiment.
If she tees it up again, I'm going to have to say you're overpaid.
I'd be happy to read it again. I spent
I
5
think we
rough
should
drafts.
submit it in the next council packet. Put it on the village website.
Thank you for the thoughts, Pat. They were heartfelt. But let me just
Well,
say this.
as a matter of moral justice, I'm
understand.
speaking very sincerely.
I understand. I do what I do here because I love this village. I do what I do here, basically just, as a civic duty, public service kind of a thing. I don't really, nobody, and everyone on this council, none of us take these positions for money.
Right.
We couldn't afford to,
Right.
if we had to. But so again, I thank you for that sentiment. But I'm very, very happy doing what I'm doing.
Well, I'm glad to know that, really. And I know you're a lifelong resident and have gone to Marymount High School, and your roots are very deep here. And I can understand that you would have that kind of feeling of commitment to this village.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'll be happy to read it again.
No, I was,
Oh, you were kidding? Oh, you were kidding.
We'll watch the video and just rewind.
Well, that's right, we'll just replay it. We'll replay the video.
Have we ever benchmarked this against other communities? know
I
that
don't
you've
think
done-
we
no?
have. All right.
Oh, well, it would be a shock, too.
We have a few others, I think, that would like to speak, Pets, and I've got
Oh,
a,
I thought I got to read it again.
Again.
That's okay. Oh, give it to Joy, yes.
be very careful on the wire. Here,
Watch
let me-
out, Pat, there's
here,
a
let me help you.
bunch of wires.
It's space, enlarged space. Okay.
So Bill can read it.
Yeah, so I can, yeah.
So he can make notes in the margin.
Careful on the wire, okay, all right. All right, do we have anyone else that would like to speak?
Larry Wessel, 7011 Wooster Pike. I noticed when I got the email, I think yesterday, about the agenda for tonight, one thing's in there also was about leaf pickup this year, it gave the dates. And so I'd like to talk about that for a minute. And
Please.
every year, you know, there's a requirement, you're not allowed to rake your leaves into the road. And
Into the street.
into the street.
Yes.
Okay, last year, I believe we had an injury to one of our workers. Is that correct? During leaf picked up, I thought I heard somebody got hurt stepping into the.
Nothing major.
Yeah, but there was an injury because a storm drain was covered, is that correct?
It wasn't in the street, it was in the right-of-way area.
Okay.
Grass area.
Okay. Well, what I'm getting at is every year, I see people blow their leaves or rake their leaves into the street. And it happens every year, you know, and it seems like it's the same households. And so I think there needs to be a way of perhaps first time notice that you have, you know, a specific amount of time to get the leaves out of the street. And if that doesn't work, then perhaps put a fine on it. You know, because every year we hear this, you know, don't rake them into the street. You know, as I said, I live on Wooster. You know, I thought about, well, I'll start a pool and I'll rake all my leaves right out into Wooster Pike. You know, and I think it would take about 5 or 10 minutes before somebody would show up at my house and say, Larry, what the heck are you doing? You know, because of where I live. And I think we need to do, if you're going to make rules, one of the aggravating thing is we make these rules, but we never enforce them. And
It has been an ongoing issue about people raking leaves into the street and other, you know, areas and things like that. It's that delicate issue that you've got between, you know, you want to have compliance, you want residents to comply, and we do put the word out, you know, every fall season. It
Right.
goes in the town crier, it goes on the website, it goes in other places. Occasionally, I mean, where there's really an egregious breach of this, we actually do send an officer around to remind the resident, you know, please don't do that.
Right.
You know, kind of a thing. And then, of course, you hope that word of mouth, you know, gets around. And I know John probably has stopped at any number of residences to gently remind them, you know, not to do that. And we will, again, this year be doing the same thing. I mean, it is a problem. It is an issue. If I had a better solution to it, I would, you know,
right.
institute it. But, you know, I don't want to turn the village into leaf police.
Right.
You know, we want, but we do, yeah.
But when we see the same households
Yeah,
year after
you're
year,
right, right. And if it becomes a safety issue, you know, if somebody has slipped or, you know, it's caused something, then yeah, then you really have to step up. Chief, did you have?
Yeah, can I just make a comment? On the leaves being in the street, what a lot of people don't realize is when it rains and those leaves are like hitting ice.
Yeah.
And it is very dangerous. A vehicle cannot stop on wet leaves. It's like being on ice. So it is a problem. So I would encourage, like Larry said, I would encourage everybody in the village not to put the leaves in the street.
Sure.
Because it is a dangerous situation, creates a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And when the leaves are down, normally we have quite a few rainy days in the fall. And it's very slick.
John?
I'm chomping at the bit to say something here.
Well, go,
You know this is a huge pet
I
peeve
know,
of mine.
and I know it's a.
Huge pet peeve
yes,
of mine.
I'm aware.
And the biggest violators are the landscape companies. And I always say that the residents' responsibility is to tell the landscape company not to do it. And we all know that does not happen. I think we got to take a firmer stand with the landscape companies, because I have to believe, and we all believe, that they are indeed the biggest violators of this. And I think maybe we should, Chief, you and I talk about it, we need to set a standard to landscape companies and hold them to it. It's the same
would
thing
agree.
every dang year.
And landscaping companies that know, they know they're not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And they do it anyway.
Yeah.
Then it's time to hit them in the pocketbook.
You
So.
can't do that without an ordinance to.
Collect the drains, right. It's a number of negative ramifications.
I know that, of course, that kind of raises a point. You're right. I mean, it's more of an issue of, it's a request. We're making a request of residents, to please be mindful. I don't think they're breaking a law is the problem. I don't know that, if we, like to the landscapers, can we cite them?
Pretty sure we have an ordinance.
I'll see and make sure I'll comment on that.
Sure.
I know for sure, but if we don't have something, maybe it's something that you guys might want to consider.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So John, is that your opinion as well, or your perception as well, that it's the landscape companies blowing leaves for residents? So,
So
do
we
you
are meeting
think
with-
a helpful reminder, like a polite reminder to the homeowners when you see it would be helpful, or?
Yes, so we've been out notices before, handed out notices about it. We're meeting with stormwater management on the 22nd, and they said they also have a form that they can, or a flyer that they can pass out to let people know not to put it down in the street because it goes into the sewers, which ends up in the creeks and the issues they have with it.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps when people know?
If you're gonna, a lot of people look at it this way, if it takes us 2 weeks to get around, it's killing our grass, and they don't want it to kill the grass. That's the issue.
Bag it.
Last year, didn't you take it a step further and send some type of notification to the typical landscaping companies?
Yes.
To let them know?
Yeah, we let them know as well.
But it still happened, because I saw it myself, right? Yeah. And this year will be better in terms of leaf pickup than it was last year, right? Last year, we weren't able to use the temps. And
Right.
so, I know it was,
It's still a discussion whether the temps are gonna be able to be used this year or not,
Right.
based on the COVID situation that's going on with Delta virus. And with them trying to get the people to work for them because of all the other companies raising their prices to $13 to $15 an hour. A lot of their people have gone to that versus, I'd rather work at McDonald's than come out here and try to rig for 80 hours. But, so we're working with them to see if he's gonna be able to get enough people to help us out in case somebody doesn't show up, we can get somebody the next day. Last year, the one reason we had a major issue last year is all the leaves came down in our third week, which is what we normally get in our fifth and sixth week. So the majority of the leaves were already down last year. That's why then with the weather and stuff, that's equipment issues.
Do you think this is an issue worth putting in a committee to study whether or not, we make this an ordinance, we make this a?
We gotta find out if it is
Well, look and
first.
see if there is an ordinance already, but one question I have for John.
Plenty of
even though
voice.
But we probably only have a half a dozen landscape companies that actually work in the village. So we pretty much know who they are, right?
Yep.
There's some.
So if we make contacts with them early on and remind them not to blow the leaves in the street, I would imagine there's probably, of course, there's 2 or 3 of the major ones that do most of the work, and we know who they are, so, I don't know. I mean.
Well, look, we can check to see what we have on the books, if we have anything or not, and we'll consider it next council then if we want to, proceed with at least looking at it within a committee.
I agree with Kelly. I think you gotta put some teeth on this thing.
Yeah, if
otherwise
you don't have that, you're, because year after year, we talk nice, we're polite, and it's kind of the same thing.
Oh, I think I was
Unless
not
there's a
polite
bite
one
at the end of
time.
it, yeah.
Well,
Can we discriminate and fine third-party companies and not fine residents for the same thing?
Well, you cite a violator, you catch a violation.
Okay.
And that would, yeah, but I mean, anyone, if it's an ordinance, anyone violating it is subject to a penalty, or whatever that would be.
But I guess, Randy, to clarify your question, it does say that the resident is responsible for letting the landscape company know. So the violator would be the landscape company or the resident who didn't tell the landscape company? Right.
property owner's got control over the landscape company.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, I'm thinking off the top of my head, I can't think of any municipality that has a statute that makes it a criminal act to throw your leaves out in the street.
Well, then they should do
I
it.
think there's some statutes that prohibit, throwing debris in the streets, things like that, but I don't know if leaves would fall in that category, but I just made a note to myself to take a look at it.
Take a look at it. Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay. All right.
One other thing on a happier note,
Sure.
the Murray Trail
Mm-hmm.
completed. I think that's great. It's, you see a lot of people using it. And I got an email today. I didn't get a chance to look at it very close, but the Eastern Quarter is talking about even doing more extensions down near 32 and 125. So I think, all we're seeing with the new multi-use trails is
Yeah, the Murray
working out
Trail
great.
is going to be great. We're getting very close. We're having a little bit of an issue right now, getting some water taps in there so we can have an irrigation system, prior to really proceeding with the landscaping. I think we're close on that.
Yeah, but it's going great. I mean, it looks,
Yeah.
it's a good addition.
Yeah, it's a great addition.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks,
thank you.
Larry.
Anyone else? Eileen?
Okay, hi. I'm Eileen Beatty. I live at 6757 Murray. Been a resident here my whole life. I'm here to talk about the procedures for establishing a village administrator. I'm not here to talk about the pros and cons. I decided to address you kind of at the last minute when I saw the agenda item that says motion to go into executive session to discuss the 3 candidates for the administrator position. And I'm reading this mostly because I've got some citations in here I want to get correct. But regardless of what comes out of that meeting, I just want to remind you of what the prescribed laws and procedures are as they pertain to this. Marymount Code Ordinance 31.076 pertains to the village administrator, and the very first sentence reads, "The legislative authority," meaning council and the mayor, may establish the position of administrator by ordinance. It's not clear to me what by ordinance means. It could be just simply that the ordinance allows for the creation of it, or it could mean that an ordinance is required in order to create the position. Ed, you'd have to comment on that, but regardless, the position does not exist today. So the only thing council has approved to date was during the April 26th council meeting, and the decision made was to, quote, simply start the search, not specifically that the village is hiring an administrator. It's the only thing this body has voted on and approved. So if no ordinance is required, it's pretty simple. All that needs to happen is a motion to establish the position must be made in a council meeting so that you can vote to approve or reject it. And then if an ordinance is required, then it's the same procedure for any ordinance. It'd have to be voted on and approved in council. Mr. McTighe, you'd have to write it, and it'll have to go and have 3 readings. Just an aside note, 3 readings would be required because this would not qualify as an emergency measure. To qualify to be considered, the ordinance must be necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, and safety, which doesn't apply here, or the preservation of the welfare of the village. And the impact that a village administrator would have on the village would not be realized for months. Therefore, waiting for 3 readings is not going to materially jeopardize the welfare of the village. An additional final note, the requiring of 3 readings or even just 1 council meeting affords the residents of Marymount the opportunity to exercise their right to participate in governance, in the governmental process, which is a right for all U.S. citizens. So please, please be mindful of our laws as you move forward with this process. That's it.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
Somebody left their glasses up here?
There's mine, you can bring it too.
You can bring them to me.
I was gonna steal them.
All right, anyone else? Anyone else, trust council? I think we covered all that. All right, motion to pay, well, any questions regarding the bills?
No?
Everybody looked them over?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything glaring. Well, everybody all right? Yeah. All right, then do I have a motion and a second to pay the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Graves?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, let's pay the bills. All right, we don't have any committee reports tonight, so we'll go through that. Moving on to miscellaneous. We have the Porsche Rally coming up next weekend, September the 18th, which I guess is Saturday. And we're starting to do a lot of prep work for that. You've already seen some of the little banners go up out at the square. They're looking really nice. Bless you. I talked with Grant Carnes earlier today, and he's informing me that there's going to be something like 150 Porsches possibly are going to be entered in this
Wow.
thing. So it really sounds like it could be a really nice turnout. So I would encourage everybody to come out and see these cars. Some of them are going to be quite spectacular, I know. All right.
With that many, I don't think we'll have a choice.
You won't have a choice, yeah. They'll be all over, they'll be parked all over out there, yeah. And big arrangements are being made, to divert traffic, maintain, a flow of traffic through the village, but of course, above all else, to maintain safety. So we'll be working hard on that. Leaf season will begin Monday, October the 25th, and run through Thursday, December the 23rd. Hopefully, John, you'll know if you are going to be able to get the Minutemen or additional help. If I'm going to have to be pressed into service again this year, you let me know. So enjoyed the work.
I'll help you, Bill.
That was a total photo op. You know it was.
Hey, I was legitimately raking leaves.
Bill, I'll help you.
On the leaves, one more
Hey,
thought,
Tippy just
John.
drops the rake and walks away.
Sorry, Bill. Just with the flying pig coming on the 31st, Halloween, that route, the route, will just need to be made consideration of leaves for with the marathon?
Oh, you mean get them out of the street?
I mean, it's,
Well done.
I just, consideration of, I guess, maybe as they start the route, just be conscious of, that first week of the marathon route.
Is there a way, John, also, Joe had an idea last year about laying out a schedule so people might be able to know, because that may help address the concern about how long the leaves are going to sit on the grass.
Well, we've done this once before, many, many years ago, when we first got the thing. The council said if we could get the leaves up within 2 weeks, they would be happy when we got the new machines, because it used to be over 3 weeks to 4 weeks and to get around one time. So we've broken up the village where we have one machine on the north side, one on the south, and one on the west side. And then if one of the first streets, whoever finishes first goes over to the south side to help the other guy. Issues we've had in the past with telling people that were coming on certain streets was that if a truck breaks down or a machine breaks down, Mrs. Jones is upset because she just had her contractor come out and put out the leaves there, and there they sit until we get the next truck fixed or whatever. So.
At least it gives a time frame, perhaps, and.
Well, we try to hit every street at least once in a 2-week period is what we try to. Now the 4th, 5th, 6th week is where all the leaves come down the most. And that's what we get back, especially if we get rain and stuff like that, order stuff out. If we want to try it this year, so be it. But I'm saying we get phone calls constantly because, we could be in the middle of somebody's house and all of a sudden the truck breaks down, the lift doesn't go up or down or whatever, and we can't get it to move. We leave and it's like, hey, you left half my leaves here. Or if they finish one side of the street on Marymount Avenue, then when they come back to do the other side the next day, everybody on that other side's like, hey, look at all the leaves that fell over the weekend. They're coming back. Let's get it all back out because they're going to come back on here. So what we try to do is tell everybody we're going to try to hit everybody at least once on the main streets. And then we do the parks last, so the people who throw their leaves in our parks,
Mhm.
Bell Tower over on the other side of Marymount, or Miami Bluff.
Oh, yeah.
And Button Becker or whatever, they're calling because the leaves sit there longer, but we try to do the parks last because we try to get everybody up front first.
It just seems like
We
it
just
might be-
have three, and it's
Right.
very time consuming, because we don't have, we used to have a three-man crew was the minimum we used to do, now we're down to a two-man crew, to save money. So we don't have that guy out there raking ahead of them to get everything ready to go, so they can just keep sweeping.
It
So,
seems like it might be worth it to, I mean, how long ago was it we tried doing that? Put
that's
them
when
on-
we first started.
Okay.
So when we first got the new machines, because like I said, it used to take them 3 to 4 weeks to get around the whole.
So how long ago was that?
That was when Mike Lennon first came.
Oh,
So.
okay. So more than 20 years ago?
Yes, so we ended up having to work weekends, and we ended up getting the jailers,
Yeah.
or the inmates in too, to help us out on the weekends. It was just to try to get it, to make it within the 2-week period that they wanted. So, they all have a list of what streets they do. If they finish it all up, or if they do half or three-quarter, they submit it every day. So then the next day, they know to go back out and hit where they started. So if we come up to the weekend, and we know 4 streets on the west side aren't done, 5 streets on the south side, we start with those first, and then go back. And a lot of people had a problem, because when we always started on Pleasant Street and hit the main roads, people always expect us to be there that Monday. So if they weren't there that Monday, they were already calling and saying, hey, where's the leaf guys? They're not here today. They always pick up on a Monday. Well, no, we're trying to finish everybody else first. So it just depends. And if somebody's sick or gets hurt or whatever, then somebody else has to cover. But I mean,
It
if
just seems like
council
we-
thinks that's gonna work, we can try it. If you wanna draw up a plan, Joe, go ahead and draw it up, and we'll try it the first week or two, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I think you would be in the best position to understand what's the operating.
I'm just going to make a comment here. We shouldn't be blaming the residents or the contractors if we can't tell the residents and contractors when these leaves are going to be picked up. So there are a lot of people, including my wife, who spends a lot of time trying to maintain the yard and make it look as nice as possible, and she does not want to keep the leaves on that grass as long as possible.
I understand.
So, I mean, we need to figure out a way to communicate to people when the pickup's going to happen, and then they can control about how, when they put that stuff out to the curb. You might find people more likely to put it on the grass if they know when it's going to be picked up.
But the issue is,
So,
the
but-
leaves fall all over the village all the time. Homewood and Mound Way, in the past years, we'd have to do them first before leaf season even started, because their leaves fell before leaf season. They had way too many leaves to put in bags. And so we were always told to get one truck out there and do Homewood and Mound Way prior to it.
It seems like.
Some
now-
areas fall heavier than the other areas, so it's hard to say when to go and hit these areas or what streets you want to do.
Well,
I
it's
could
gonna-
put all 3 people in one area if you want to do it that way.
And John, it could be a fluid thing. I'm not saying it's written in stone either. But
No,
we got a
but I'm
we have a
just-
website now where we can actually sit there and communicate better to the residents and say, hey.
Just give 'em an idea.
Here's the current schedule. If it changes, it changes.
Subject
And
to
if
change.
something happens, because a truck broke down, then it happens, and you just communicate it. But I think just giving a general outline for folks to have a plan, I think would be.
Yeah, I think we can try it. I think it's something we can
Yeah,
try.
I mean, again, we've got the website where we can use that to
Yeah,
communicate.
yeah,
with
we
people.
can
And you just let
And-
people know it's subject to change, weather permitting
Yeah.
or whatever.
Breaks, someone-
Put a little,
Yeah.
put a little disclaimer in there.
Well, it doesn't have to be exact, this street, this hour,
Right,
this
but
day.
as
type
long
of
as
thing.
people-
You know,
right.
It's just like, hey, this week, we're gonna be focusing on this section of town.
Well, that's what we do. We have one, this week, we've got one in the west side, one in the north, and one in the south.
So we just let them know.
And then
It's
each-
like on there. That sort of helps people understand, because I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't commit to the exact day that it's gonna be on this street, but just sort of say, these are the streets we're gonna be covering hopefully this week, weather permitting and yada yada, all that kind of stuff. So people could see that and.
Yeah, have it nailed down to at least within a couple of days, so like I said, that
Yeah.
if they do, rake them down there, they're not gonna be sitting at the edge of the yard on the grass, because I know that's a situation, but
Give it a try.
you give it a try, yeah, something we can work on. All right, at Randy York's request, I posted the Centennial Committee announcement, and I have been getting good responses on this. A lot of people are responding back to me, so I'm kind of making like a little secondary announcement here. Those who are listening tonight and hear this and wish to participate and be part of this committee, send your name in, and I'm personally am collecting them right now at the mayor's email, and then Randy and I will be getting together and deciding how we're going to organize this.
Do we have a certain number of people we're shooting for?
No, I don't think we are we, Randy? I mean,
Okay.
The more the merrier?
man, the more the merrier for now, yeah. Like I said.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll organize something. And I got an email today from Chris White, and Joe, maybe you can help me out on this a little bit. It sounds as though the batting cage is ready to proceed. They've got the estimate from the company that's going to do the work. We authorized the PO. John has already, have you already taken down the?
Yes, the batting cage is already.
The batting cage, all the fencing and so on and so forth. So it sounds to me like they're in good shape, I think, to proceed. Yeah, soon. Okay. Do you know anything else, Joe, you want to add?
No, I think we're ready to go.
I
at this
think we're
point.
ready to go.
And the whole thing's been paid for, so.
Yeah. All right, yeah, we'll be collecting the $4,400 in insurance money on that.
Well, not only that, there's two large
Yeah, there's two
contributors.
large contributors, yeah, absolutely, yeah, which I will be acknowledging and mentioning as we go forward. I want to take a second here to thank Steve Watt and the Hamilton County Sheriff Pipe and Drum Corps. These guys, for those of you who showed up on Saturday, these guys were spectacular. I mean, they made part of that ceremony, the 9/11 ceremony that we held in front of the elementary school. We had a very good turnout for that. Then, of course, afterwards, we had the patriotic pup parade, and we had a really good turnout for that. Kelly, any comments on that?
We had a good turnout. I think it was, and it wasn't chaotic.
No.
As I think some people thought it would be. I think it turned out really nice.
Yeah, I
I think the person that led the parade was probably the best thing that happened.
You think? All right, well, maybe it'll become a tradition. Like I said, I think it was, weather was fantastic, everything was good. The ceremonies beforehand were very nice, very
Yeah, it was a really nice ceremony beforehand.
Yeah. All right, now, I got to ask you guys to bear with us a little bit on this. We have a lot of resolutions here to get through. A lot of these, of course, are reappointments, and Tony, I believe we can
Yes, I've combined as many as I possibly could, so we'll. All right, so to get started here, to reappoint Louise Schomburg, Marcia Duval, and Joan Vago as members of the Parks Advisory Board for the calendar years of 2022 and 2023.
Okay, that's the first reading. We'll have the second reading next time.
All right, to reappoint Eric Marsland as a member of the Parks Advisory Board for the calendar year 2022.
All right, that's the first reading. We'll have the second reading next time.
All right, to reappoint Brian Kelly, Karen Burkich, Tom Gilmore, Lauren Halad to be members of the Pool Commission for the calendar years 2022 and 2023.
Again, the first reading. We'll have the second reading next time.
All right, to reappoint Mike Kittner and Brad Lockhart as members of the Architectural Review Board for the calendar years of 2022 and 2023.
All right, first reading. We'll have the second reading next time.
To reappoint Andrew Sager, Steve Spooner, Mark Glassmeyer, Jason Brown Knight, John Fakes, and John Morgan as members of the South 80 Trails, Gardens, and Parks Advisory Board for the calendar year of 2022.
All right, first reading, second reading next time.
To reappoint Marcy Lewis and Mary Beth York as voting members of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2022.
Again, first reading, second reading next time.
All right, to reappoint Marianne Prue, John Bentley, and Martin Kepke as non-voting members of the Tree Advisory Board for the calendar year 2022.
Again, first reading, second reading next time.
Ordinance? All right, first ordinance?
No, hold on, what about Courtney
I think we included
Courtney's off
Courtney.
and he's moved, is that correct?
He's gone,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay,
We're working on replacing.
yeah. All right, the ordinances?
To reappoint Anthony Bourgeting as Village Fiscal Officer for the calendar years 2022 and 2023.
All right, first reading, second reading next time.
To reappoint Alyssa Wendler as Village Fiscal Administrative Assistant for the calendar year 2022 and 2023.
All
To
right,
set compensation.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. First reading, second reading next time.
To confirm the reappointment of Alyssa Wendler as part-time IT Administrator for calendar years 2022 and 2023.
All right. Again, first reading, we'll have the second reading the next time, and then the last one, of course, is the tabled one regarding the fence ordinance. That's still on the table. All right, at this time,
We'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Well, I want to announce to everybody, we're going to take the council into executive session, so I'm going to have to ask those who are sitting in the back to say good night. We've enjoyed your company.
Hey, before we close, just, I had two other things real quick before we
Okay.
go to the exec session.
Sure.
What's the status of the audit? Is the audit done?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, we just heard from
Zach.
Zach today. Apparently, he had a death in the family, and it took him out of town, and with all the COVID stuff going on, it was kind of a hassle. Oh, was it international? Okay. So do you know more about it?
Just that he had a death in the family, he had to go international due to COVID. It took him a little longer. But I know when I had spoke to him before he left, he had said that they were still working on from last year. So
Okay.
they had some follow-up questions today.
Yeah, a few questions today that Eli and I and you took care of, so hopefully soon.
So,
Still work in progress.
still work in progress, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And Bill, the second thing is, I think it would be, now that we've come to the end of the pool year, I think it would be good to us to ask the question, should we open up membership for the pool to a limited number of non-residents? We talked about that in the
Sorry, I
past.
couldn't hear that.
Open up in the pool to a limited number of non-residents.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I know Joe mentioned there's been some attendance numbers, and the numbers from an attendance standpoint are not as high.
Right.
They're actually down somewhat. And so it just seems like this is an opportunity for us to improve the financial economics of that pool. And so I think it's something we ought to just explore and check into.
Well, I mean, Joe probably, I mean, this is an issue that I believe the pool commission is or has been discussing at some interim intervals, have they not, Joe?
Over the past couple of years, they have talked about it. There's not unanimous support for bringing in non-residents. I think it's require a fair amount of analysis to figure out what's going to happen. And, again, when we did the survey, 49 out of 80 people didn't like the idea. So, I mean, it's like not something like there's unanimous support for the concept.
Sure.
There is no question that we need to figure it out at some point, because, I just saw attendance numbers today. There was days we had 2 people at the pool for the entire day.
Wow.
We had more employees than we had people. So, I mean, we have to figure out if we're really gonna try to run that thing efficiently and effectively or not.
Well, especially given all the money we've invested into it. That's where I am too, is because we said we wanted to hold off to make sure we made it, I mean, the fence is there, it looks great. We did all the other work that's been done down there by yourself and other members of the pool commission. I mean, it's in really good shape, except for the leaking, but, that's not a, you don't see that on the surface. But it just feels like we've invested a lot in that pool, and we're continuing to still run at a deficit, and we ought to be looking at this kind of stuff to see if we can make this make sense economically.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people or non-residents ask me about just that.
And again,
Joe,
we
your
can
sense is-
manage it.
Okay,
The
what
pool
I would
would not-
recommend, because I do not want to tackle this, in the Health and Rec Committee at this point, I would make a recommendation for the Pool Commission to take a look at it in the next 30 days and come back with a recommendation.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, I'm not going to dig into another issue down there and, find out that it's just a waste of my time.
Yep, okay. So, pool commission, will you talk to him about it then?
I can ask them to put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Or, I mean, I'll speak with Lauren directly. and-
Well, it might be good if you attend their meeting too. I mean,
Yeah, oh, I can do that.
Well, did we ever determine the legalities of limiting?
That's part of the analysis that needs to be done. How would you structure it? How do you define, who's allowed and who's not?
The lottery.
There's tremendous amount of detail you have to get into the process. You have to figure out, A, are you going to limit the number of people you're going to let down there to not overwhelm it? Make it, take little steps at a time to see how many people you add in, to see what your capacity is. What do you charge the non-residents? Because it's going to be at a different rate than what you charge residents. The question about, are we going to be accused of discrimination depending upon how we define, who's allowed to be a non-resident? I had conversations with a pool management company in the past couple weeks, and they told me about other entities who had gone through this process, and they had issues with conduct of some of the non-residents coming in, not matching the conduct of the resident. there's a whole lot of issues that have to be figured out. So it's just not simply, let's go for the money.
Well, Terrace Park has done it, for years.
That's a
They've
private
done-
It's a private pool. And so,
We're municipal, so.
Different
But like,
standards.
Sharonville is a municipal pool that does open itself up also to non-residents. I think it's a limited number as well.
Well, I think to Joe's point, I mean, it's something the pool committee should be delving into in depth. These, that's quite a litany of issues. Let them start running it down.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason we created the body,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they're gonna
Absolutely.
need help of somebody like Ed though, too.
Yeah,
with those legality issues
clearly,
and stuff like
clearly,
that.
you're right. There'll be some legal issues. Yeah. Okay. It's a good idea.
You're gonna have them dig into it?
Yeah, yes, yeah, yes.
So do we need to tell them to turn off the cameras then too?
Wait, we need a
Yeah,
motion
somebody,
second.
during
We need to
the
adjourn.
regular council meeting, somebody needs to move to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session.
Second.
Somebody needs a second.
Second.
Who was second?
A vote
Randy-
on the,
Randy
vote on the
second.
motion to
Randy
go
had the
into
second.
executive session
And
to
somebody
discuss
needs-
potential candidates for village administrator position that may be created.
Did Rob,
Are we allowed to have a potty break?
Yeah, we can, well, I can declare a
recess?
10-minute recess here.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
How about 5?
5, okay, 5.
10 minutes, I'll go. All right, you're up first.
Lunch with Jack last week. I would be honest with you, Joe, I was a little surprised that it hasn't closed yet.